Do you have a pile of fabric scraps and you're looking for something easy and quick to make with them? Well, I've got the tutorial for you. So grab you a handful of those scraps and let's get into making some cute and easy fabric flowers. For this tutorial, I thought I'd pull out just some random fabric scraps from my pile. I've got some cotton, some lace, I've got some silky kind of fabric from a shirt that I upcycled. I've also got some scrap denim that I'm going to use in one of the flowers. But this tutorial can pretty much go with any type of fabric that you've got. First off, you're going to need a sewing needle. I'm going to show you a way that you can do it and the way that I failed with the sewing needle as well, because I always like to show y'all my fails and my wins because we're real like that over here. You're going to take you a rectangle of fabric. I'm going to use the denim scrap for this first flower. Feel free to use any fabric that you've got. This piece of fabric, I cut it to approximately 4 inches wide by about 20 inches long. Now, depending on how long you make your fabric is going to depend on how fluffy it's going to be towards the end. So once you've got your fabric cut, you're going to fold it hot dog style to where the outside fabric is facing you. Line up the two raw edges, and what we're going to do is we're going to take it to our sewing machine and we're going to sew about 1/4 of an inch of a seam all the way down that long edge of the fabric tube. To be honest, this was part of the process that, looking back and doing it, I would probably change, but I'll show you how that turns out and the changes that I would make later in the video. But for now, we're going to do a 1/4 inch seam all the way down. Once you get that sewn, what you're going to have is you're going to have this tube of fabric. This is what it should look like. And now what we're going to do is you can take your rotary cutter, you can take scissors, snips, whatever kind of cutting device that you have. And we're going to cut little slits all the way down the other side of the tube that we did not sew. Now, depending on how fluffy that you want your flower, you can either make them wide or you can make them narrow. I'm actually going to be cutting mine about 1/4 of an inch into 1/4 inch slits. But if you wanted to have bigger petals for your flower, then you would just leave the little slits wider. Now you want to take care not to cut into the seam that you sewed on the raw edges of the flower. But yeah, you're just going to cut those slits all the way down your piece of material. And this is what the end result is going to look like. This is actually a pretty cool little piece of fringe if you wanted to use it like that, but for these purposes, we're going to make it into a flower. What you're going to do to make our little flower, again, super duper easy, you're going to take the end and you're just going to start rolling it up. You're just going to roll it up like a little pinwheel taco. I'm not sure. But you're just going to roll it from end to end all the way down. Now, this is where my first mistake happened once I got done rolling, and you will see the mistake that I'm talking about. Once you get to the end, you can actually use a straight pin to keep things in place. Now, for whatever reason, I thought that I could get a needle into my little spiral of denim fabric, and now I've done this method before with fabric that was not quite as thick as this, but little me, just not thinking straight, thought that I could sew through all of those layers of fabric. So yeah, little do I know that, one, that's not a big enough needle, and two, there was no way I was going to be able to sew through all those. I even tried to like smush it down on my cutting mat, and it did not work out very well at all. So I just pulled the needle back out of the fabric and decided, hey, you know what? We are going to go with the hot glue gun. I went and got the heavy duty glue gun that we have. This is a Ryobi. We have a lot of other tools in the house that are just Ryobi brand. and they all take the same battery, so that's why we have a bunch of the things. Yeah, this thing is wireless and pretty powerful, gets really, really hot. I really do like that as an upgrade. While that's getting warm, I'm going to show you another just easy little flower that you can do. And this one is actually pretty cool if you wanted to put it on like a jacket or something like that, or maybe like some pants, just as a little quick embellishment. I'm going to hand sew on the edge of this lace to kind of gather it all together. Now, the one thing that I've noticed in my experience is that if I want a gather on something small like this, I've tried to sew it before and I've tried to do like a stitch that's just a long stitch. It just does not work out and does not look the same way as when I just do it by hand. And I am the biggest advocate for using a sewing machine when needed, but I just like the way that it fluffs with a hand sew. But yeah, you can take this little lace and you can take like a little yo-yo, put it right there on top, and you've got a little easy embellishment. You could even put a little button in the middle, give it a little extra pizzazz. Now that the hot glue gun is heated up, we're going to take our little first flower and we're going to unravel it. We're going to undo everything that we did because sometimes you just have to learn as you go, depending on the fabric. Now, again, if this was a thinner fabric, it probably would not have been such an issue to sew. But with it being denim, I literally didn't even think about it being so much thicker. But it's okay. It's all right. We still get the point across. What you're going to do is you're going to do the same process as before, but as you're rolling, like every, I don't know, 2 to 3 inches, you're just going to add a little dab of glue to keep everything in place. Again, since we're not going to be like putting this through the washing machine, using the hot glue works out just as well because it's going to be like a little brooch type thing is what we're doing for this flower. Once you get to the end, you just want to make sure everything's nice and secure. Making sure I'm getting all of the hot glue strings out because that's the one thing about using hot glue is I don't really like how it strings. The sticks that I'm using are like Gorilla Glue. It's still, no matter what hot glue, I think you're going to have strings. But anyway, yeah, this is the flower that you've got so far. Now these little like pin backs, I got these from somebody, I think gave them to me, or maybe the thrift store. Again, looking back, I would not have used this particular backing. I would use a different type of clip. But since it was what I had close to me, that's what I used. Uh, you live and you learn, right? What I did was instead of just attaching that back directly to the backside of that flower, I did cut a little circle piece and I kind of sandwiched in the back of the clip in between the pieces of fabric because I just didn't trust just to glue it directly on the back. I wanted to give it a little bit more substance to hold on to. And in addition to gluing it, I also did not trust that that was going to hold, so I did a couple of hand stitches on there just to hold everything into place. And here I am just making sure that all of the pieces are going to fit and that everything is going to go into the areas that it needs to be before I started hot gluing and attaching everything together. Once I model this at the end, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about as far as the stem on the backside of this flower. I decided that it needed to have some sort of just little bit of extra pizzazz on the front. So I had some buttons and I had some pearls and I was like, I kind of like the pearl and denim look. I don't know, there's just something about that kind of look that works out pretty well in my brain. I did go ahead and just hot glue that pearl right into the center of the little flower. And once you get that embellishment glued on, then we are done with that flower. This fabric that I'm using for this was from a shirt or a dress or something. It's much silkier and thinner than the denim. So on this one, I cut it a little bit thinner, just about 3 by 15. Again, it's just going to depend on how much fabric that you have and how fluffy that you want your flower to be. Same thing here. We're going to fold it hot dog style. And on this one, I am going to get the hand sewing needle back out and I'm going to hand sew the raw edge versus machine sewing it. And again, if you like to gather with your machine, then feel free to do it like that. It's just when it comes to delicate things like this, I just really prefer a hand sewn kind of ruffle versus trying to do it with the machine. Wanted to make sure that you understood that it was going to be the two raw edges is what we're going to be hand sewing. Once you get to the end, I just like to tack the ends together just so that they don't unravel and get unruly, because I cannot stand when the fabric is at the end and it just doesn't want to act right. So I just tacked it together with a few stitches. You could glue it if you wanted to. But yeah, I just kind of curled it among itself, like no rhyme or reason. There's no right or wrong with these flowers because they're literally just made out of scraps. But I kind of fluffed it up, and of course it needed some sort of adornment, some sort of bling in the middle. What I did was the little button that I tried on the denim earlier, I decided to add it to this because the gold just, I don't know, it just seemed to work out pretty well. Again, you can always sew it if you prefer. But since I had it hot and ready, just like a Little Caesars pizza, I went ahead and glued it right there in the middle. So the denim one, this is what we ended up with. You can see it's kind of floppy on my jacket, which I wasn't really a huge fan of that. Again, if you make the base of it not as deep as a 1/4 inch, then it won't be quite as floppy on whatever you're using it on. But you live, you learn, and you do experiments. And now the other flower, I really like how it turned out, even though it was kind of a little bit, it was a little bit lopsided. I kind of liked that asymmetry that was going on. Let me know if you have any questions below. I do appreciate you watching, and I will see you next time.